Happy New Year, YouTube. Today we're going to do a couple of really simple dishes. The first one is going to be a potato dish that I grew up with, and I loved eating this as a kid. Basically, they're like string stir-fried potatoes, a little bit of sweet and sourness to it. And since then, I've sort of updated the recipe a little bit, add a little bit of spiciness, give it a little bit of Szechuan flavor. It's really easy. If you don't have the Szechuan spices, I still recommend you try this out without the Szechuan peppercorns and the chili peppers or anything like that. You can do this with just the potatoes. All right, so pretty basic. Just get a couple potatoes like this. You know, 2 large ones or 3 small ones would work. And with my Szechuan version, I've added some Szechuan peppercorns and a few Szechuan chilies, a little bit of garlic as well. And then I'm also using some serrano peppers. Again, you can kind of choose whether you want this or not. You can use jalapeno peppers. I just happen to have serrano on hand, so this is what we're going to use. And if you don't want the pepper stuff, that's fine. And then for the sauce, it's super simple. This is basically just a mixture of 1 part soy sauce, 2 part Chinese vinegar, and 1 part sugar. And you can adjust that as you feel, you know, based on your own taste, right? Like put it in there, try it out. Do you want a little bit sweeter? Add some more sugar. Do you want a little bit more sour? Add a little bit more vinegar. And just play around, and then you add a little bit of salt to taste as well. So let's get started with the potatoes. It's pretty simple. Let's get these prepped. What you want to do is slice these potatoes into little about 1/8 inch slices. So what we're going to do is just easily go through. And then once you slice them into 1/8 inch slices, you're going to want to slice them again into little strings about the same width apart. So if we stack a few of these, I'll just show what that looks like, and then we'll get through the rest of them. So they should look about that big, and this is what we're going for. So we're going to do that for all these potatoes. Here we go. All the potatoes are all cut up. You should get a nice good sized bowl like this. We're going to do the exact same thing with our chili peppers. So just cut them in half like this, and then slice them into about 1/8 inch strips, and we'll get that going. And I'm using about 3 or 4 here. Again, it's up to you how many you want to use. It's gonna give a really nice fragrance to this dish, and that's why I like putting these fresh chili peppers in there. For our second dish, it's gonna be even easier. We're just gonna do some chili peppers, some onions, and some sliced beef. All right. And for our chili peppers, actually, I am using the exact same stuff that I cut up earlier. I'm just gonna cut up a little bit more, and then I also added some jalapenos in there as well, just to mix up the flavors a little bit. So cut up the same way like before, about 1/8 of an inch, and then we're also gonna cut up some onions. So I've got about 1.5 small onions here. You can do 1 to 2 onions based on what you want, and again, just slice it up into thin little pieces like that. So roughly this big is good. All right. And we'll get that prepped, and then we'll get the steak sliced up into some small thin slices as well. We got our beef sliced up. They're into little slices about this big, fairly thin. All right, you don't need too much beef. I'd say 1/2 pound, maybe if you like it really meaty, 3/4 of a pound. This is not a super meat heavy dish. Once you got your beef sliced, what we want to do is just marinate it a little bit, quick marinade for about 10 minutes, just to kind of tenderize it a bit. We just add some salt, and then add some baking soda, actually, just a little bit of baking soda. And what this is going to do is it's going to make that meat feel really velvety once we stir fry it. It's going to be really nice and tender and soft. So it's actually a pretty common technique in Chinese cookings to add that baking soda. So just kind of get it in there, get all the pieces sort of covered, and let that sit. 5-10 minutes is all you really need, and then we can start stir frying this. And then once we start stir frying, this is a very simple dish. You really just stir frying up the peppers and onions, adding the meat, getting a nice browning color, adding some salt and pepper, and it turns out great and it tastes great. And if you want to change it up a little bit, it's really simple too. You can add a little bit of soy sauce if you want. You can add some oyster sauce if you want to, give it a little bit more of a saucy feel and add some sweetness to it. And it's really all up to you. And then, of course, finish off with some black pepper and some green onions. Okay, we got our ingredients ready. We're ready to cook. Getting the pan piping hot. Wait for it to kind of show a little bit of smoke, and then we'll know that that's hot enough. But what we're going to do is we are going to first start with our chilies and our Szechuan peppercorns and our garlic, and just make that oil kind of fragrant. Once it doesn't take long, maybe about 30 seconds. Once it's nice and fragrant, we don't want to burn the garlic. We go ahead and toss in the potatoes, and we start stir frying. And it won't take too long at all, and then we'll add the sauce at the very end. So our pan is getting hot here. We'll add in some oil, probably about 2 tablespoons maybe. And then go ahead and start with some of these peppers. And so, not putting all of them in. Some of this is for the other dish. So we'll get that in there. The top. Get our pan going. And add in our garlic and chili peppers there. Again, just really trying to get that oil nice and fragrant. We'll just stir fry until the garlic starts showing a little bit of golden brown. Once that happens, it's kind of a good idea before the garlic starts burning to add in the potatoes. All right, when we start smelling it, I think we are ready to add the potatoes in. So go ahead and add that in and just give it a quick toss. Get all the ingredients mixed together. And cook it until it starts softening up. And again, this is up to you, whether you want it extra soft or if you want it a little bit crunchy, a little bit more crisp. I actually like it both ways. They're both very, very good. So, just kind of try it out and see what you like. And once the texture is good, you can go ahead and take it off. So we're gonna add the sauce a little bit closer to the end. There's some sugars in there. We don't want those sugars to burn. We can also at this point add a little bit of salt in just to kind of get everything with a little bit of salt that brings out the flavor. And this will cook for a little bit, keep things stirring. You don't want things to burn, you don't want the potatoes to burn. It's probably about 3-4 minutes before it's gonna be ready to go. Okay, come take a look at this. This is getting pretty close. You can see we got some brown bits on there, it's caramelizing nicely. It's about the texture I want. So we're gonna go ahead and add our sauce. Add it around. In there, do a quick stir fry and toss. And finish off with some black pepper. And we are done, and that's what that looks like. I hope you guys try this because it is delicious. I grew up with this. It's one of my favorite dishes. Okay. That dish is done. Let's get started on our steak and pepper and onions. All right, so we got our pan nice and hot again. It's clean. We're gonna add a little bit of oil. We're gonna do this in batches. First, we're gonna do the onions and pepper, or you can do the steak first if you want. I'm just gonna start with the onions and pepper. You wanna do it separately because if you overload the wok here, especially on this indoor burner, it's too much for it to handle, and all your food is gonna steam. It's not gonna taste good. You don't want your meat to steam. You want your meat to get kind of brown. You want that Maillard reaction to bring out the flavor. But first, we're going to go ahead and just stir fry our veggies. Cook for a couple minutes until they start just getting a little bit soft. You can go ahead and add a little bit of salt right now on this. And then, if you want them to cook a little bit faster, you can actually add a little bit of cooking wine as well once they start building up that little bit of charm. So just add a little bit of that. Cooking wine will really add a little bit of flavor and speed up the cooking process. We got our onions and peppers off to the side here. They're just starting to get soft, so they're perfect. We're gonna go ahead, put that in a bowl, start on the meat. So a little bit more oil back in the pan, let that heat up. Once that is hot, we are going to go ahead and add our beef. You can see by doing this, I'm avoiding that steaming. You don't want your meat to steam, that won't taste very good. All right, take a look. We are almost ready. Most of the pieces are no longer pink. So right when they're pretty much all brown, this is ready to go. We are ready to get our onions and pepper added back. And we'll just add a little bit more oil back into the pan here. Help everything sort of fry up better. Okay, and mix that up. And then what I'm actually going to do today, now normally you could just go ahead and finish it out like this, add some pepper, add a little bit of salt, but I actually am going to use the oyster sauce. I think this will add some sweetness to it. It's a little bit of a different flavor. This is pretty good too. So just kind of maybe a couple tablespoons, a tablespoon or so, maybe a tablespoon and a half. Put that in there. Mix it up, and then go ahead and
add black pepper. We're gonna add quite a bit of black pepper in this dish. Comes up really very peppery. So that's good. Stir fry a bit, mix up, and we are pretty much ready. That is done.
All right, here we are. We are all done. Here's our 2 dishes, and we're gonna go ahead and start chopping in and see how it tastes. Add a little bit of green onions on top just for color, and makes it a little prettier, and it adds a little bit to the flavor as well. So why don't you give that a shot and tell me what you think?
Let's
and I'll
see.
try this one.
That's really good. It has this great flavor, and I can't really explain it.
All right, we got some beef and onion here. This is delicious, super easy. Thanks for tuning in. I'll see you next time.